I enjoyed every second of it, and if I had the chance, I'd do it again. These aren't the words of a Hollywood villain. This isn't a line from a fictional horror script. This is the cold, calculated, and terrifying confession of a 15-year-old boy. A boy who crept into the home of an elderly couple in the dead of night and turned their sanctuary into a human slaughterhouse, for absolutely no reason other than the pure thrill of it. How does a child, raised in a wealthy neighborhood, transform into a monster who relishes the physical dissection of human beings? And more importantly, how did the system, his parents, and his doctors fail to stop him when he was practically begging to be locked up? Get ready, because the terrifying details of the Davis Massacre will make you question everyone walking past you on the street. For this story, I want you to close your eyes, listen closely, and let your own mind paint the details. Because sometimes, your imagination is much darker than anything I could ever show you. Welcome to Davis, California, a picturesque university town. It's often called the bicycle capital of America. It's the kind of place where crime is almost non-existent. People leave their doors unlocked, windows open to let in the spring breeze, and walk their dogs at midnight without a single shadow of fear. It's a bubble of absolute safety. But on the night of April 14th, 2013, that bubble was violently popped, and the safety of this town bled out into the streets. To understand the tragedy, we must first meet the victims. Oliver Northup, known to everyone as Chip, was an 87-year-old brilliant attorney. He was a man who spent his life fighting for the underprivileged. Beside him was his wife, Claudia Maupin, a 76-year-old former pastor. Claudia was the heart of her community, a woman who radiated warmth and kindness. They were enjoying their golden years. On the evening of April 13th, they attended a local concert, came home, locked their front door, and went to sleep. They felt perfectly safe. They had no idea that a predator was already roaming their quiet streets. Somewhere else in that exact same city lived Daniel William Marsh. If you saw Daniel walking down the street, you wouldn't look twice. He was 15, slightly awkward, from a privileged background, but beneath that completely average exterior, his mind was a rotting landscape of psychopathy. You see, monsters are rarely born overnight. They are built piece by piece, and the warning signs were flashing neon red. Daniel's childhood was marked by a bitter divorce between his parents, but that alone doesn't create a serial killer. As he entered his early teens, a dark obsession took root. He began to harbor a deep, sickening fascination with gore. He started torturing and killing small animals, dissecting them just to see how their insides worked. He spent hours on the darkest corners of the internet, consuming pictures of real corpses and crime scenes. He didn't idolize athletes or musicians. He idolized serial killers. Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy. These were his heroes. He studied them, not out of morbid curiosity, but as a student taking notes. He wanted to be better than them. He wanted to pull off the perfect crime. And here is the most infuriating part. The authorities knew. Months before the murders, Daniel admitted to his therapist that he had intense, violent fantasies about murdering people. He practically handed them the blueprint of what he was going to do. But the system is flawed. He was brushed off as a deeply depressed, edgy teenager. They prescribed him antidepressants and sent him home, a ticking time bomb left completely unguarded. Let's go back to the night of April 14th. It's past midnight. The town is dead silent. Daniel dressed in completely black clothing. He wrapped the soles of his shoes in black duct tape, ensuring he wouldn't leave a single footprint. He strapped a massive, razor-sharp Bowie knife to his belt. This wasn't a kitchen knife. This was a weapon designed to slice through flesh and bone. He walked out of his house and vanished into the darkness. He didn't know who he was going to kill tonight. He just knew he had to kill. He walked through neighborhoods, quietly testing doorknobs, pushing on windows. House after house, everything was locked, until he arrived at Chip and Claudia's home. He noticed a glass window was left slightly cracked open for fresh air. With chilling patience, he sliced the window screen. He slithered through the gap like a snake infiltrating a bird's nest. He was inside. He stood in the dark living room of complete strangers. He looked at their family photos on the wall. He familiarized himself with the layout of the house. And then, he heard it. The slow, rhythmic breathing coming from the master bedroom. Daniel walked down the hallway. He stood in the doorway of the bedroom, staring at the elderly couple sleeping peacefully. Daniel later described this exact moment to the police. He said, "I felt this overwhelming euphoria. It was like I was a god who held their fate in my hands." He didn't want them to die peacefully in their sleep. That wouldn't give him the thrill he was craving. He wanted them to wake up. He wanted them to feel it. Daniel crept to the side of the bed. He raised the Bowie knife and brought it down on Chip. He stabbed the 87-year-old man repeatedly, viciously. Chip woke up in agonizing pain, screaming. Claudia, jolted awake by her husband's screams, opened her eyes to see a masked demon towering over them. She tried to fight back. She tried to scream for help, but Daniel instantly turned the blade on her, silencing her forever. But the murders were just the opening act for Daniel Marsh. What he did next traumatized the seasoned FBI agents and crime scene investigators who eventually found the bodies. Daniel didn't run away. He stayed in that bedroom for hours. He began to meticulously mutilate the bodies in ways that defy human sanity. He dissected them, exploring their anatomy, just like he did with the animals. He placed foreign objects inside their wounds. He turned a quiet suburban bedroom into a personalized slaughterhouse. When he was finally satisfied, he calmly walked to their bathroom, washed the blood off his hands, climbed out the exact same window, and walked home in the dark. The sun came up. Daniel woke up, put on his backpack, and went to his high school. He sat in math class, ate lunch in the cafeteria, and laughed with his friends, all while the blood of 2 innocent people was literally still trapped beneath his fingernails. He felt invincible. He believed he was a criminal mastermind who had outsmarted the police. When the bodies were finally discovered after the couple missed an appointment, the town of Davis descended into pure hysterical panic. The police were baffled. There were no fingerprints, no DNA left behind. Nothing of value was stolen, ruling out a robbery. It was a ghost who committed a crime of pure, senseless malice. The residents of Davis stopped sleeping. Gun sales skyrocketed. People barricaded their doors. The monster was loose, but Daniel Marsh was not a criminal mastermind. He was an arrogant, narcissistic teenager. And narcissists cannot keep their mouths shut. They crave an audience. He was starving for the recognition of his masterpiece. So, he started bragging. He told 2 of his teenage friends exactly what he did. He fed them precise, gruesome details about the mutilations that had never been released to the press. At first, they thought he had a sick sense of humor, but as the details got darker, the reality set in. The guilt ate away at one of the friends, who finally broke down and went to the police. In June 2013, the police arrested Daniel. When they brought him into the interrogation room, they expected a terrified 15-year-old. They expected tears, a call for his mother, a plea for a lawyer. Instead, they found pure ice. Daniel didn't shed a single tear. He sat there, relaxed, with a slight chilling smirk on his face. He confessed to everything. He walked the detectives through the slaughter step by step, with the cold detachment of someone reciting a grocery list. When the lead detective leaned in and asked him, "Do you feel any remorse for what you did to those people?" Daniel looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, I enjoyed every second of it. It was amazing." Daniel's defense team tried desperately to play the insanity card, arguing his medication altered his mind. But the jury saw right through the mask. They saw the calculation, the duct tape on the shoes, the planned entry. Daniel Marsh was tried as an adult. The boy who wanted to be a famous serial killer was sentenced to 52 years to life in prison. Because of a controversial California law regarding juvenile offenders, he has attempted to appeal his sentence to get an early release, but so far, he remains exactly where he belongs, locked in a cage, slowly rotting away, entirely forgotten by the world he tried to terrorize. We like to think that monsters are easy to spot. We want to believe they look like the villains in movies, hiding in dark alleyways. But the terrifying truth of the Davis Massacre is that sometimes the monster is the quiet kid sitting next to you in class, the teenager walking behind you on a sunny afternoon. If this deep dive into the darkest corners of the human mind kept you awake, hit that subscribe button. We have many more terrifying true stories to uncover. And before you go, let us know in the comments below, do you believe a 15-year-old can be born purely evil? Or did society and a broken mental health system create Daniel Marsh? Stay safe, and always lock your doors.